বিদেহা করুণায়ম্বর শোভিত কলেবর উপমা দে জানুলম্বিত বাহু যুগল কনক পুতলি দেহা অরুণায়ম্বর শোভিত কলেবর উপমা দে জানুলম্বিত বাহু যুগল কনক পুতলি দেহা অরুণায়ম্বর শোভিত কলেবর উপমা দে
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda. A devotee's behavior establishes the true purpose of religious principles. The behavior of Madhavendra Puri Goswami is the essence of such religious principles. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the following commentary on this passage. The sadhu, or honest man, is called Mahajan or Mahatma. The Mahatma is described thus by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 9:13. Mahatmanas tumam partha daitam prakatam ashritaha. O son of Buddha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Person of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. In the material world, the word Mahatma is understood in different ways by different religionists. Mundaners also come up with their different angles of vision. For the conditioned soul, busy in sense gratification, A Mahajan is recognized according to the proportion of sense gratification he offers. For instance, a businessman may consider a certain banker to be a Mahajan, and karmis desiring material enjoyment may consider philosophers like Jainini to be Mahajans. There are many yogis who want to control the senses, and for them, Patanjali Rishi is a Mahajan. For the Gyanis, the atheist Kapila, Vashishta, Durvas, Dattatreya, and other impersonalist philosophers are Mahajans. For the demons, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Ravan's son, Meghanada, Jarasandha, and others are accepted as Mahajans. For materialistic anthropologists speculating on the evolution of the body, a person like Darwin is a Mahajan. The scientists who are bewildered by Krishna's external energy have no relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet they are accepted by some as Mahajan. Similarly, philosophers, historians, literary men, public speakers, and social and political leaders are sometimes accepted as Mahajans. Such Mahajans are respected by certain men who have been described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Second canto, Swavid Varahushta Karai Samstuta Purusha Pashu. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. Thus, on the material platform, animalistic leaders are worshipped by animals. Sometimes physicians, psychiatrists, and social workers try to mitigate bodily pain, distress, and fear. But they have no knowledge of spiritual identity and are bereft of a relationship with God. Yet, they are considered Mahajans by the illusion. Self-deceived persons sometimes accept leaders or spiritual masters from a priestly order that has been officially appointed by the codes of material life. In this way, they are deceived by official priests. Sometimes people accept as Mahajans those who have been designated by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur as Danga Vipras, impostor Brahmins. Such impostors imitate the characteristics of Srila Haridas Thakur, and they envy Haridas Thakur, who is certainly a Mahajan. They make great artificial endeavors, advertising themselves as great devotees of the Lord, or as mystic hypnotists knowledgeable in witchcraft, hypnotism, and miracles. Sometimes people accept as Mahajans demons like Putana, Trinavrata, Vatsya, Baka, Agasura, Danuka, Kalya, and Pralamba. Some people accept imitators and adversaries of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such as Pondraka, Srigala Vasudeva, the spiritual master of demons, Sukracharya, or atheists like Charvak, King Vena, Sugata, and Arhat. People who accept such imitators as Mahajans have no faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, they accept godless cheaters who present themselves as incarnations of God and cheat foolish people within the material world by word juggling. Thus many rascals are accepted as Mahajans. It is those who are devoid of devotional service who sometimes mistakenly accept persons with mundane motives as Mahajans. The only motive must be Krishna Bhakti, devotional service to the Lord. Sometimes fruitive workers, dry philosophers, non-devotees, mystic yogis, and persons attached to material opulence, women, and money are considered Mahajans. But Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, gives the following statement about such unauthorized Mahajans. In this material world, karmis, fruits of actors, are accepted as Mahajans by foolish people who do not know the value of devotional service. The mundane intelligence and mental speculative methods of such foolish people are under the control of the three modes of material nature. Consequently, they cannot understand unalloyed devotional service. They are attracted by material activities and they become worshippers of material nature. Thus, they are known as fruitive actors. They even become entangled in material activities disguised as spiritual activities. In Bhagavad Gita, such people are described as Veda Vada Rataha, supposed followers of the Vedas. They do not understand the real purpose of the Vedas, yet they think of themselves as Vedic authorities. People versed in Vedic knowledge must know Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vedascha Saver Aham Eva Vedyat. In this material world, a person may be famous as a karma gira, a successful fruitive worker, or he may be very successful in performing religious duties, or he may be known as a hero in mental speculation, jnana vira, or he may be a very famous renunciant. In any case, Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd Canto gives the following opinion in this matter. Anyone whose work is not meant for elevating him to religious life, anyone whose religious, ritualistic performances do not raise him to renunciation, and anyone situated in renunciation that does not lead him to devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be considered dead, although he is breathing. The conclusion is that all pious activity, fruitive activity, religious principles, and renunciation must ultimately lead to devotional service. There are different types of processes for rendering service. One may serve his country, people, and society, the Varnashram Dharma system, the sick, the poor, the rich, women, demigods, and so on. All this service comes under the heading of sense gratification or enjoyment in the material world. It is most unfortunate that people are more or less attracted by such material activity and that the leaders of these activities are accepted as Mahajans, great ideal leaders. Actually, they are only misleaders, but an ordinary man cannot understand how he is being misled. Narottam Das Thakur says, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Jitide Kariya Akya. One should accept as one's guide the words of sadhus, the Shastra, and Guru. A sadhu is a great personality like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Shastras are the injunctions of revealed scriptures, and the Guru, or spiritual master, is one who confirms the scriptural injunctions. Accepting the guidance of these three is the actual way of following the great personalities, Mahajan, for real advancement in life. Mahajano Yenagata Sapanta. A man covered by illusion cannot understand the proper way. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Dharma Stapana Hitu Sadhura Vyabhara. The behavior of a devotee is the criterion for all other behavior. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself followed the devotional principles and taught others to follow them. Puri Goshaniri Ye Acharana Se Dharma Shara. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally followed the behavior of Madhavendra Puri and advised others to follow his principles. Unfortunately, people have been attracted to the material body since time immemorial. A human being who identifies his body made of three elements with the self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers his land of birth worshipable, and who goes to a place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered like an ass or a calf. From Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto. Those who accept the logic of Gadalika Pravaha and follow in the footsteps of pseudo-Mahajans are carried away by the waves of Maya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur therefore warns, don't be carried away by the waves of Maya. Just surrender to the lotus feet of Krishna and all miseries will end. Those who follow the social customs and behavior forget to follow the path chalked out by the Mahajans. Thus they are offenders at the feet of the Mahajans. Sometimes they consider such Mahajans very conservative, or they create their own Mahajans. In this way, they ignore the principles of the Parampara system. This is a great misfortune for everyone. If one does not follow in the footsteps of the real Mahajans, one's plans for happiness will be frustrated. This is elaborately explained later in Madhya-lila chapter 25. It is there stated, people are so unfortunate that they do not accept the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead, they want to be supported by so-called Mahajans or authorities. Tate chaya darshana haite tattva nahi jani. We cannot ascertain the real truth simply by following speculators. We have to follow the footsteps of the Mahajans in disciplic succession. Then our attempt will be successful. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Vani Amritera Dara. Whatever is spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an incessant flow of nectar. Whoever accepts his words as reality can understand the essence of the absolute truth. No one can ascertain the absolute truth by following the philosophy of Sankhya or the yoga system of Patanjali. For neither the followers of Sankhya nor the yogis who follow Patanjali accept Lord Vishnu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The ambition of such people is never fulfilled. Therefore, they are attracted by the external energy. Although mental speculators may be renowned all over the world as great authorities, actually they are not. Such leaders are themselves conservative and not at all liberal. However, if we preach this philosophy, people will consider Vaishnavas very sectarian. Srila Madhavendra Puri was a real Mahajana, but misguided people cannot distinguish the real from the unreal. But a person who is awakened to Krishna consciousness can understand the real religious path chalked out by the Lord and his pure devotees. Sri Madhavendra Puri was a real Mahajana because he understood the absolute truth properly and throughout his life behaved like a pure devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu approved the method of Sri Madhavendra Puri. Therefore, although from the material viewpoint the Sanodiya Brahman was on a lower platform, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered him situated on the highest platform of spiritual realization. Srimad Bhagavatam's 6th canto states that there are 12 Mahajans: Brahma, Narada, Shambhu, the 4 Kumaras, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad, Janaka, Bhishma, Bali, Sukadev, and Yamaraj. To select our Mahajans in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, we have to follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his representatives. His next representative is Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami, and the next representatives are the 6 Goswami: Sri Rupa, Sri Sanatan, Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva, Gopal Bhatta, and Das Raghunath. A follower of Vishnu Swamis was Sri Swami, the most well-known commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. He was also a Mahajana. Similarly, Chandidas, Vidyapati, and Jayadev were all Mahajanas. One who tries to imitate the Mahajans just to become an imitative spiritual master is certainly far away from following in the footsteps of the Mahajana. Sometimes people cannot actually understand how a Mahajan follows other Mahajanas. In this way, people commit offenses and fall from devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued. Dry arguments are inconclusive. A great personality whose opinion does not differ from others is not considered a great sage. Simply by studying the Vedas, which are variegated, one cannot come to the right path by which religious principles are understood. The solid truth of religious principles is hidden in the heart of an unadulterated, self-realized person. Consequently, as the Shastras confirm, one should accept whatever progressive path the Mahajans advocate. This is a verse spoken by Yudhishthira Maharaj in the Mahabharata. After this discussion, the Brahmin served lunch to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then all the people residing in Mathura came to see the Lord. People came by the hundreds of thousands, and no one could count them. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came out of the house to give audience to the people. When the people assembled, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu raised his arms and said very loudly, Hari Bol. The people responded to the Lord and became ecstatic. As if mad, they began to dance and to vibrate the transcendental sound Hari. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed in 24 ghats along the banks of the Yamuna, and the Brahmin showed him all the places of pilgrimage. Purport. The 24 ghats, bathing places along the Yamuna, are Avimukta, Ardiruda, Guya Tirtha, Prayag Tirtha, Kanakala Tirtha, Tinduka, Surya Tirtha, Vataswami, Dhruva Ghat, Rishi Tirtha, Moksha Tirtha, Bodha Tirtha, Gokarna, Krishna Ghat, Vaikuntha, Ashikund, Chatu Samudrika Kupa, Akrura Tirtha, Yagnita Viprasthana, Kubja Kupa, Rangasthala, Manchasthala, Malayudasthala, and thus as made. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited all the holy places on the banks of the Yamuna, including Swayambhu, Vishramghat, Dirgha Vishnu, Bhuteshwara, Mahavidya, and Gokarna. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to see the various forests of Vrindavan, he took the Brahmin with him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the different forests, including Madhavan, Talavan, Kumudavan, and Bahulavan. Wherever he went, he took his bath with great ecstatic love. The word van means forest. Vrindavan is the name given to the forest where Srimati Vrinda Devi, Tulsi Devi, grows profusely. Actually, it is not a forest as we ordinarily consider a forest, because it is very thick with green vegetation. There are 12 such vans in Vrindavan. Some are located on the western side of the Yamuna and others on the eastern side. The forests situated on the eastern side are Bhadravan, Bilvavan, Lohyavan, Bandrivavan, and Mahavan. On the western side are Madhuvan, Talavan, Kumudavan, Bahulavan, Kamyavan, Kadiravan, and Vrindavan. These are the 12 forests of the Vrindavan area. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed through Vrindavan, herds of grazing cows saw him pass, and immediately surrounding him began to moo very loudly. Seeing the herds approach him, the Lord was stunned with ecstatic love. The cows then began to lick his body with great affection. Becoming pacified, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to caress the cows, and the cows, being unable to give up his company, went with him. It was only with great difficulty that the cowherd men were able to keep the cows back. Then, when the Lord chanted, all the deer heard the sweet voice and approached him. When the does and bucks came and saw the Lord's face, they began to lick his body. Not being at all afraid of him, they accompanied him along the path. Bumblebees and birds like the parrot and cuckoo all began to sing loudly on the 5th note, and the peacocks began to dance in front of the Lord. Upon seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the trees and creepers of Vrindavan became jubilant. Their twigs stood up, and they began to shed tears of ecstasy in the form of honey. The tree branches and creepers, overloaded with fruits and flowers, fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord and greeted him with various presentations as if they were his friends. Thus, all the moving and non-moving living entities of Vrindavan became very jubilant to see the Lord. It was as if friends were made happy by seeing another friend. Seeing their affection, the Lord was moved by ecstatic love. He began to sport with them exactly as a friend sports with his friends. Thus, he voluntarily came under the control of his friends. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to embrace each and every tree and creeper, and they began to offer their fruits and flowers as if in meditation. The Lord's body was restless, and tears, trembling, and jubilation were manifest. He said very loudly, "Chant Krishna, chant Krishna." All moving and non-moving creatures then began to vibrate the transcendental sound of Hare Krishna, as if they were echoing the deep sound of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord then clasped the necks of the deer and began to cry. There was jubilation manifest in the bodies of the deer, and tears were in their eyes. When a male and female parrot appeared on the branches of a tree, the Lord saw them and wanted to hear them speak. Both parrots flew onto the hand of the Lord and began to chant the transcendental qualities of Krishna, and the Lord listened to them. The male parrot sang, "The glorification of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beneficial to everyone in the universe. His beauty is victorious over the gopis of Vrindavan, and it subdues their patience. His pastimes astound the goddess of fortune, and his bodily strength turns Govardhan Hill into a small toy like a ball. His spotless qualities are unlimited, and his behavior satisfies everyone. Lord Krishna is attractive to everyone. Oh, may our Lord maintain the whole universe." Purport. This verse is found in Govinda Charitamrita. After hearing this description of Lord Krishna from the male parrot, the female parrot began to recite a description of Srimati Radharani. The female parrot said, "Srimati Radharani's affection, her exquisite beauty and good behavior, her artistic dancing and chanting, and her poetic compositions are all so attractive that they attract the mind of Krishna, who attracts the mind of everyone in the universe." Purport. This verse is also found in Govinda Lilamrita. Thereafter, the male parrot said, "Krishna is the enchanter of the mind of Cupid." He then began to recite another verse. The male parrot then said, "My dear Skari," female parrot, "Sri Krishna carries a flute and enchants the hearts of all women throughout the universe. He is specifically the enjoyer of the beautiful gopis, and he is the enchanter of Cupid also. Let him be glorified." Also a verse from Govinda Lilamrita. Then the female parrot began to speak jokingly to the male parrot, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was struck with wonderful ecstatic love to hear her speak. The female parrot said, "When Lord Sri Krishna is with Radharani, he is the enchanter of Cupid. Otherwise, when he is alone, he himself is enchanted by erotic feelings, even though he enchants the whole universe." Another verse from Govinda Lilamrita. Both parrots then flew onto a tree branch, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to watch the dancing of the peacocks with curiosity. When the Lord saw the bluish necks of the peacocks, his remembrance of Krishna immediately awakened, and he fell to the ground in ecstatic love. When the Brahmin saw that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was unconscious, he and Balabhadra Bhattacharya took care of him. They hastily sprinkled water over the Lord's body. Then they took up his outer cloth and began to fan him with it. They then began to chant the holy name of Krishna into the Lord's ear. When the Lord regained consciousness, he began rolling on the ground. When the Lord rolled on the ground, sharp thorns injured his body. Taking him on his lap, Balabhadra Bhattacharya pacified him. The mind of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wandered in ecstatic love of Krishna. He immediately stood up and said, "Chant, chant." Then he himself began to dance. Being thus ordered by the Lord, both Balabhadra Bhattacharya and the Brahman began to chant the holy name of Krishna. Then the Lord, dancing and dancing, proceeded along the path. The Brahman was astounded to see the symptoms of ecstatic love exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He then became anxious to give the Lord protection. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind was absorbed in ecstatic love of Jagannath Puri. But when he passed along the road on the way to Vrindavan, that love increased 100 times. The Lord's ecstatic love increased 1,000 times when he visited Mathura, but it increased 100,000 times when he wandered in the forest of Vrindavan. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was elsewhere, the very name of Vrindavan was sufficient to increase his ecstatic love. Now, when he was actually traveling in the Vrindavan forest, his mind was absorbed in great ecstatic love day and night. He ate and bathed simply out of habit. Thus, I have written a description of the ecstatic love Lord Chaitanya manifested in one of the places he visited while walking through the 12 forests of Vrindavan. To describe what he experienced everywhere would be impossible. Lord Ananta writes millions of books elaborately describing the transformations of ecstatic love experienced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Vrindavan. Since Lord Ananta himself cannot describe even a fragment of these pastimes, I am simply pointing out the direction. The whole world became immersed in the inundation of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One can swim in that water to the extent that he has the strength. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Natya Leela, 17th chapter, describing the Lord's traveling to Vrindavan. So we'll continue tomorrow from chapter 18. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Everybody read? Okay.
Is it now? Yeah. Any ginger? I'd like to get some ginger.
You have to check with the kitchen tomorrow. Having a cold?
Say that again?
You have a cold?
No, but it helps with the digestion.